Hello everybody, welcome back to American Textbook Reading Series. I'm your host, Brian Stuart. Today we're taking a look at Science Book 3, Unit 1. And the topic for Unit 1 is living and non-living things. In this unit, you will discover what living things do. And you will also discover how living and non-living things are different. Interesting unit. So let's get started with a list of the vocabulary. Okay, so let's go over the vocabulary. The first word is live, as in to live. To live means to be alive, to be in the process of being alive. Now be careful with live because it can also be pronounced in another way. You can pronounce this live, but that has a different meaning. If you say live, that is an adjective, right? So live here, this live is a verb, right? To live. I want to live a long time. But live, as an adjective, we can say it is a live concert, right? That means that people are playing. It's not recorded music. People are actually playing the music. You can see the people. It's live music, live concert. But live, okay? So be careful. Live, live, okay? In this case, live. Live means to be alive. Next word is to grow. Things that live grow. They grow during their lives, right? They become bigger or taller over a period of time. You are growing right now, right? You can't see it, right? To grow usually means it takes a long time, right? It takes many months, maybe years, for you to notice a change as you grow. But some animals grow very quickly, right? Like pets, dogs and cats, they grow very quickly. It's still hard to see. You don't see it happening right now, but over weeks or months, very quickly they change, they grow. They become bigger or taller. Our next word is to change. To change means to become different. That's a good picture, right? You've all seen an egg, right? Sometimes you eat eggs for breakfast, right? Well, those are not eggs that will become chickens, don't worry. But an egg that is able to become a chicken will hatch after a while, right? The egg will change. It'll break open and a little chick will come out of it. That's a big change, right? To become different. You also change, right? When you were a baby, now you were a child or a teenager, you changed, right? And you will continue to change through your life. We all do. Okay. Reproduce. 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 Reproduce means to make more living things of the same kind. All living things are able to reproduce. That means that they can make more living things that look like them. When you get older, you might get married and have children. That means you will reproduce, right? When your dog gets older, it can meet another dog, become a parent, and they will have children, right? Plants, when they get older, they send out seeds or pollen and they will reproduce and more plants will grow. So to make more living things of the same kind, that's to reproduce. Next word is a sad word, die. To no longer be alive. Here we have a sad picture of a bird, probably an old bird who became too old and then died. All living things become old and die. It's part of life. The thing is, enjoy your life while you're alive, while you are living, right? To enjoy your life and be good to other people. That's the important thing. Okay, our next word is move. To move. To move means to go from place A to place B, right? Something is at place A and it moves over to place B. Now here we have a picture of a snail. Snails are famous for moving very slowly. Somebody might say, oh, you move like a snail. Means you move very slowly. And probably not a good idea, especially if you're going to school. Okay, so actually we have a video of a snail moving. And you can see, I'll start the video here, you can see, okay, the snail is moving, but it's taking a long time, right? Very slow. In the background, you saw the cars going by very quickly. Cars move fast, be careful. Snails move really slow. This snail's very slow. Okay, we don't have time to watch him move. It would take a long time to see him move from one side to the other. We don't have time. Okay, so next we have breathe. Breathe. Okay, we have the E at the end. That's important. I will explain soon. But to breathe means to take air into the body. Actually, you take it into your lungs, right? And then you send it out again. All living things breathe. Now, animals and plants have different ways to breathe. But for animals, right, we breathe in the air goes into our lungs, we take the oxygen out and it goes into our blood, and this gives us energy. We need the oxygen to live. So we breathe in the air. We don't need all of the air, just a little part of it is oxygen, but we take that oxygen and we breathe out the air that we don't need, or the gas that is coming out of our body. So it's important to think about breathe in, breathe out. So we can also say that. You breathe in and you breathe out. Okay? Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And we do it all the time. We don't even think about it because it's a natural part of living. Now, I said it's important, the E at the end. Now, there's a very similar word. It's spelled this way, and this is different. So be careful. Breath. Breathe is a verb. It's the action, right? I showed you. That's to breathe. Breath is a noun. Okay, so be careful. Don't get those two words confused. We can say, take a breath. That is a breath. Breathe in and breathe out. That is one breath. Okay? So when you talk about a breath as a noun, it's no E and we pronounce it breath. But if you're talking about the action, that's a verb, we put an E on the end and we pronounce it breathe. Okay? So breath, breathe. Be careful, don't get them mixed up. Okay, good. Okay, next, we have a video. Now, fish can breathe. You think, how can fish breathe? They're underwater. Where do they get the air? Well, it's interesting because even in water, there is gas. Water is hydrogen and oxygen. And fish are designed to be able to get the gas, the oxygen that they need, through their gills, right? They don't breathe in through their mouth. They have gills on the side of their bodies, and they are able to take in the gas that they need. Now, if we can see, we can see the little fish moving around. It's hard to see their gills. You can see their mouths moving, but they're not really breathing through their mouth. They're breathing through their gills. Let me write that for you. Gills. And I put S because fish have two gills on either side, right? And they're kind of their neck. And they kind of open up and close as they're swimming, and that's where the water passes through and they can catch the air or the oxygen that they need through their gills. So fish obviously are much different than mammals because they breathe differently, and they can breathe underwater. Mammals can't breathe underwater. Whales and dolphins are mammals, but they have to come up, and they have a hole on the back of their head that opens up, and they take in the air, and they breathe through that hole. So mammals and whales are not really fish, they're mammals, but true fish have gills. Okay, interesting. Next we have oxygen, and I said that word before. Oxygen, oxygen, or oxygen. If you say it quickly, sounds like oxygen. Oxygen. Oxygen is very important. Obviously, I just said when we breathe in, we need the oxygen in the air. The air around us, actually, this is kind of maybe a bigger lesson. Nitrogen and oxygen. The air right now around me and around you is 21%, only 21% oxygen. The rest, what is that? That's 79% nitrogen, right? So we don't need nitrogen. Our bodies don't use nitrogen. Nitrogen it's like nothing to our body. We don't react to nitrogen, but we do react with oxygen, and we need oxygen to live. Oxygen goes into our blood. It helps us do many of the functions that our cells need to be able to do what they do. And there's so many different cells that do have different tasks in our body, and that helps us to live. So oxygen is a gas, right? It's a gas that living things need. We need it, fish need it, many different living things need oxygen. And mostly the air is 79% nitrogen, 21% oxygen. Yes, there are other gases, but they're very small. They're not really measurable in any situation, any typical situation. Okay, that we, in the outside. Okay, good. So oxygen is very important for us and most living things. Next, we have healthy. Healthy means to be strong and well. I hope you are healthy and your parents are very interested, or they're very worried, hopefully not too worried, that you stay healthy. And you should eat well, eat good things, eat vegetables, eat, depending on, meat is good. Vegetables, of course, are very important. Make sure you eat a balanced diet so to stay healthy. But that's not it. You also need to exercise. This boy is exercising because you need to give your muscles the practice or the chance to grow strong. And you want to stay healthy. And not just eating and exercise, you also need sleep. So make sure you get enough sleep. Put your phone away. Don't play video games too long. Get enough sleep at night. All of these things help you remain healthy. And you want to be healthy all your life. Of course, when you're young, you're very strong and healthy. As you get older, you have to work harder to stay healthy. Okay, good. Okay, now let's take a look at the difference between living things and non-living things. So that's what this unit is about, really, living and non-living things. How are they different? Well, we've learned a lot of words in the vocabulary section about living things. We learned grow, right? Living things grow. They get bigger and taller. So you can see the picture of the swan and the little baby swans. The babies will grow, they'll get taller. They will become adult swans. Do non-living things grow? Well, oxygen is a non-living thing. It's a gas. Does it grow? No, we use it, but oxygen by itself, it doesn't get bigger, it stays the same, right? It doesn't have a process where it gets bigger or taller, right? It just stays the same. Okay, next, living things change. Yeah, they change, of course. As they grow, they get bigger, they get taller. But some living things change as they grow, or as they become from a baby to a child to an adult, they actually change form. For example, butterflies, caterpillars, they will change form as they grow. So they change. And we saw the example of the egg becoming the chick. They change. But do non-living things change? No, they do not change, right? You see a rock, that rock will always be the same. It doesn't change by itself. I mean, yeah, sure, I can take a hammer and break it, and then it changes, but I had to do that, or something else had to do that. The rock by itself will not change by itself. Living things do change by themselves. Okay, next we have move. Move from one place to another. We saw the snail. Yeah, the snail takes a long time. People move more quickly, right? Of course, birds move very fast, and horses, as we can see in the picture, they move very quickly from one place to another. But do non-living things move by themselves? No, they don't. I mean, you might have a doll on your shelf in your bedroom, but if you put it there and you leave it there, it's not going to move. I hope. No, I'm just kidding. No, it won't move. Don't worry. Okay, so you have to pick it up and put it somewhere. And before in the snail video, I said, look at the cars. Of course, people are making those cars move. If you park the car and leave it, the car is not going to move by itself, right? So non-living things do not move by themselves. Okay, last, we have reproduce. And we can see the mother and the father and a baby. I don't know if it's a girl or a boy, but it's a baby, and they have a baby. Mother and the father got together, they created a baby. All living things have the ability to reproduce, to make younger copies of themselves. They're not perfect copies, they're a little bit different. That would be very boring if everybody was the same. So it's very interesting that they're a little bit different, but we have the ability to reproduce, all living things. Do non-living things, can they reproduce? No. Even though in the picture we see many houses that look like they're the same, right? But those houses didn't reproduce by themselves. No. People, construction workers, came and built those houses, you know, but the houses don't get together and have babies. What's a baby house? That's crazy. That doesn't happen. So non-living things do not reproduce. Living things do. So this chart shows us many differences between living things and non-living things. What do living things do? And living things do not do those things. Okay, interesting. Now, when we take a look at living things, we can say that all living things do these three things in our chart. First, we can see that all living things grow. The baby drinks milk from her mother, so she can grow, right? When the mothers have the baby, they will give milk to their babies. So the baby needs milk. And after the baby gets older, the baby doesn't need the milk anymore, but they still need to eat. We all need to eat. I hope you eat well during the day and you eat healthy foods to stay healthy. So if you do that, you will grow strong, you will grow well. Okay, and that's important, obviously. So all living things grow. The second thing is change. Right? In the first picture, we see the baby, but maybe after a few years, now we have a young girl, right? So change. The girl, before the girl is a baby, right? She can't talk. Maybe she can say ga, 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 boo, boo, boo. But that's not talking, really, right? But when she gets older, she can say words. She can make sentences. She can talk, say what she's thinking. That's to talk. She can walk by herself. Babies don't walk, they crawl, right? And she can eat by herself. Mom doesn't have to give her the food, right? It goes down. Now, the child can eat by herself. So the baby girl changed into a child. You changed from a baby to a child or a teenager, and later on you will become an adult. You change throughout your life. I've done most of my changing. Still have some change left in me, but we all change. Everybody changes. Reproduce. Reproduce is the third thing, and that, of course, is when, we can talk about this girl. Actually, let's imagine that this is the same person in each of the picture. First, we see the little baby, right? Then she grows a little bit older. She's a baby. She changes into a child. Many years later, she becomes a woman. And look, she has a baby of her own, right? So she reproduced. She grew older. She became a woman. And with a man, she was able to reproduce. So the woman has a baby of her own. So again, all living things are able to reproduce, to make copies of themselves. Not exact copies, but copies of themselves. New living things. And that's life. Okay, so living things can do that. Okay, now it's time for the reading. As usual, read along with me. Maybe you can read out loud as I read, or read along in your head and think about the pronunciation of the words. And of course, remember the vocabulary that we learned at the beginning of this unit. Are you ready? Let's begin. In the world, there are living things and non-living things. A living thing is something that is alive. A chick is a living thing. A chick lives in a nest. It needs space to live in. A chick breathes air. Air has oxygen in it. Do you remember how much? Right? Usually 21% oxygen. Okay? Okay, air has oxygen in it. Almost all living things need oxygen to live. A chick needs to eat and drink. Food and water help keep the chick healthy. Keep healthy, also stay healthy. These are very common expressions. Stay healthy. I hope you stay healthy. Please keep healthy. Okay? Don't say keep your health. That's strange. Just say keep healthy or stay healthy. Okay, next. It grows and changes into a chicken, right? So a baby chick will grow and change into an adult chicken. Okay, next. Living things can reproduce. A chicken can make an egg. A chick comes from an egg. One day the chicken will die. All living things die. Okay, so living things reproduce, right? A chicken makes an egg, chick comes from the egg, and then the chick is born, grows older, becomes an adult, and it lays an egg too. So, it goes around and around. And then after a while, it will die. All living things die. Some things do not die because they have never been alive. They are called non-living things. Rocks are non-living things. They do not breathe or grow. Rocks do not need to eat or drink. A rock does not move by itself. Non-living things cannot reproduce. Okay. So, that's interesting. That passage, obviously, we had two different things we were talking about. Now, when you read about two different things, or you write about two different things, probably you want to say, how are they the same or how are they different? This passage, obviously, was talking about two different things, and they are different. They're not the same, they're different. One thing, first we saw and we read about living things, and we learned what living things do. Then, in the middle of the passage, we changed, we switched, we transitioned, right? We had a transition, A transition is when you change from one subject to another. So in the middle of the paragraph, we had a transition, and we started talking about non-living things. So first we talked about living things, then we transitioned into talking about non-living things, and we showed how they are different. So this is contrast, not comparison, contrast. Okay? So when your teacher says, you know, compare or contrast, should really be compare or contrast two different things, you can compare them. Oh, you could compare and contrast. That would be a bit longer. You can say how they're the same and then how they're different. You could also do that. That's another plan for your essay or for your writing passage. But anyway, this was contrast. So on the left-hand side, we have living things. On the right-hand side, we have non-living things. How are they different? How do they contrast? Contrast equals different, right? Show difference. So let's start with the left side at the top. It says living things are beep. Living things are what? Well, living things are, it was similar to a vocabulary word. It's not exactly the same, but in the reading passage, remember, it said living things are, what do? They live. If something lives, it is alive, right? So living things are alive. Living things are alive. Alive. We say it is alive because we say it lives. So to live is a verb. Alive is an adjective, right? They are alive, right? It is alive. Okay, good. Living things need food, water, and beep. What else do they need? Well, we talked about food, we talked about water. Well, in the vocabulary section, we talked about something that living things need, and to get it, right? To get that thing, we have to do something. We have to breathe. What are we getting when we breathe? We are getting oxygen. 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 So, living things need food, water, and oxygen in order to continue living. If you don't get food, you die. If you don't get water, you die. If you don't get oxygen, you die. So don't die. Get food, get water, get oxygen, stay healthy. Whew. Okay, good. So, living things, beep, and change. Now, that kind of means the same thing, right? But they're a little bit different, right? Because they change. How do they change? They get bigger and they get taller. When something gets bigger or taller, what are they doing? What's the vocabulary word? Grow. That's right, grow. So, living things grow and change. As they grow, of course, they change. Now, living things can beep. What do living things do that non-living things cannot do? Now there's a lot of choices we could use for D, but we can just go over to the right-hand side and see, it's the opposite of what is on the right-hand side. So we say living things can breathe, well, or living things can grow, or living things can reproduce. Which one is it? So let's look over. Non-living things cannot make new things like themselves. Aha! Make new things like themselves. What does that mean? The vocabulary word was reproduce. So we want to show the exact difference, so we need to put that here. Reproduce. Oops, I'm sorry. Reproduce. U-C-E. Okay, let me write that again. Reproduce. Okay, yeah, a little weird with this pen. Okay, reproduce. So living things can reproduce. Those are things that living things can do. They're opposite of the other thing, of the other side, non-living things. So we said living things are alive, non-living things are not alive. Okay, that would be the direct opposite. Direct opposite. How are they different, right? How do you contrast them? What is the direct opposite? Alive, not alive. Living things need food, water, and beep. oxygen, we already have that. But non-living things do not need food, water, or oxygen. Of course, we can just use the same word because do not need is the direct opposite of need. Okay? Direct opposite. So, living things grow and change. Non-living things do not grow or change. Grow or change. So, do not is the opposite of, we don't need do here, but actually, do is kind of what we say implied. We don't need it. We don't say it. We don't say living things do grow and change. We don't need do. But if you say it negatively, then you say do not, right? Non-living things do not grow or change. Okay? That's the direct opposite of what they do. Okay. And then finally, as we saw before, living things can reproduce. Non-living things cannot make new things like themselves. That's the same as saying reproduce. Okay, so basically this chart shows us the difference, the opposites, characteristics between living things and non-living things. What do living things do? What do non-living things not do, right? How are they different? Okay, so that was an interesting unit, right? We talked about the differences between living things and non-living things, and we focused on what do living things do and what non-living things don't do. Okay, so kind of an interesting lesson. Well, that's it for today. I hope you learned a lot, as always, and we'll see you in the next unit or the next lesson. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.